Resistance training wouldn't be what it is today in many ways without Arthur Jones. He pioneered the weight machine line with the Nautilus brand, which made him extremely wealthy. Those machines, especially the ones built in the 1970s, are still being used today and are built like absolute tanks. I had the opportunity to pick up a rowing torso and a double shoulder early when I started my own gym and can affirm to their intensity. They're also incredibly heavy. Arthur Jones got his line of machines into rehab facilities, gyms, fitness centers, and professional sports teams. Their unique design targeted muscles in ways standard free weight lifting couldn't replicate. One of the most notable of the Nautilus lines is the pullover machine. It's considered the holy grail by many because of its design and effectiveness, and was a key machine for six-time Olympian winner Dorian Yates. Arthur had many people run through his gauntlet of high-intensity training. The results were nothing short of incredible. His theories on weightlifting were likewise way ahead of their time. At a time when bodybuilding was reaching peak popularity with Arnold Schwarzenegger at the center, the Nautilus line and HIIT training method were sweeping the fitness world throughout. Instead of training for hours a day, every day at the gym with multiple sets and reps, you could perform an entire workout in as little as 20 to 30 minutes a few days a week. And in doing so, you would gain muscle, and a lot of it. Through pushing each body part to absolute failure with good quality form, you are properly stimulating the muscles in the right manner. The training styles and methods that Arthur Jones was implementing didn't go without controversy either. That will be discussed later. But one thing was certain, the program worked, and it worked very well. The machines worked, and the time saved through the program design were very desirable to many people. Jones felt that a rapid rate of growth could be established from HIIT. He says, quote, "From my own personal experience and from the experiences of many other people, I was aware that a very rapid rate of muscular growth was at least possible. Why then, I was forced to ask myself, could such a rate of growth be maintained right up to the point of individual potential?"
Let's talk
end
about
quote.
the equipment itself. This is a phenomenon. But it's been around a long time for you, hasn't it? It started when, 1947?
Well, I built the first Nautilus machine. I've trained with weights, with barbells, for over 40 years. Mm-hmm. And many years ago, like a lot of other people, I became aware that something was wrong with the barbell. I didn't know what.
Oh, you didn't know what?
I didn't know then. It took me 30 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
The problem with a barbell is it provides unidirectional, one-directional resistance, straight up and down as a result of gravity, which would be fine if you were an elephant and you had a reciprocal trunk. But you're a rotary animal. You don't move in straight lines, you rotate. Even if you move in a straight line, it's a combination of several rotational movements. So the first thing was to design a rotational machine. So rather than trying to fit a man to a tool, we fit the tool to the man.
Yeah, and been very successful at it. But some people say that these machines, now you don't claim that this machine will do everything for everybody, do you?
Well, it depends on what they want. They won't write letters. A Nautilus machine is a logical barbell. You're still lifting weights, but you're lifting weights through a complete range of motion rather than training only the mid-range of possible motion.
Yeah.
So they're more productive, they're faster, they're safer. They do what they're intended to do, and they do it very well.
Right. Now, did you design all of these machines?
Yes.
I mean, you must have a really good knowledge of anatomy to figure out one machine for one muscle or two muscles or whatever.
It took me 30 years, so
yeah.
How good my knowledge is now, but it, you know.
Sure.
Arthur Jones recruited Casey Viator as his test subject. At age 19, Casey was the youngest person to ever win the Mr. America title. After that win, Casey suffered a major setback, which applies some controversy to the study itself. Dr. Ellington Darden, who spent 20 years with Nautilus and worked closely with both Arthur Jones and Casey Viator, describes what happened to Casey. Quote, "After winning the contest, Viator took some time off from training and returned in December of 1972, weighing 200.5 pounds. In early January of 1973, Viator was involved in a serious accident involving a wire extrusion machine and lost most of the little finger on his right hand. Then, he almost died from an allergic reaction to an anti-tetanus shot. As a result, from January through April of 1973, Viator did no training. In fact, most of the time he was depressed and he had little appetite. His muscles atrophied and he lost 33.63 pounds, with 18.75 of the pounds being attributed to the near-fatal injection. Some, perhaps most, of Viator's success from the Colorado experiment was that he was rebuilding muscle that he had already built 2 years earlier." End quote. With the extreme loss in weight, it provided an excellent opportunity for Casey to regain so much of what was lost during the time period. Arthur Jones knew that if he was to properly market his equipment, he would need to take a drastic approach. In order to make that happen, he would need to demonstrate how much muscle an individual could gain using his machines and the HIT method. The Colorado experiment was conducted for the purpose of clearly demonstrating that rapid, large-scale increases in both muscular mass and strength can be produced from a very brief program of exercise. Because the expectation of large muscular increase, Jones knew he would be accused of giving Viator steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs. In fact, Jones was very much against drugs of any kind. He felt that the large-scale transformation was worth the risk of drug accusations. He says, quote, "We also realized that it had to be dramatic in order to attract the attention that we feel it deserves. The results of the Colorado experiment will probably be a controversial subject for years to come. But in the end, the facts will be clearly established and accepted by almost everybody. So perhaps controversy is a necessary evil required to bring the truth into the open." End quote. Another goal was to demonstrate the shorter workout duration. Less than an hour, between 30 and 40 minutes of grueling, intense work to the point of absolute failure. 3 to 4 days a week was all that was needed. Additionally, the HIT training from each machine will keep the cardiovascular system at an advantageous rate of at least 150 beats per minute. Arriving at the Department of Physical Education at Colorado State University, Arthur Jones personally trained Casey Viator during the month of May 1973. Casey trained every other day, completing exactly 14 workouts from May 1st to May 29th under the supervision of Dr. Elliot Pless, Director of Exercise Physiology. Even with the loss of weight and muscle that occurred with Casey, Dr. Pless was still impressed with his strength. Using a universal machine for both pre- and post-testing, Casey's initial test numbers were as follows. Leg press was 32 reps at 400 pounds. The standing press was 8 reps at 160 pounds. The supinated grip chinning was 7 reps at 50 pounds, and the parallel dipping was 12 reps at 50 pounds. Casey's body fat was measured at 13.8%, which was already very lean for an individual. So as they prepared for the coming work, Arthur Jones had 6 assertions regarding the success of his machines and high-intensity training. Number 1, the growth of human muscular tissue is related to the intensity of exercise. Increases in strength and muscle mass are rapidly produced by very brief and infrequent training if the intensity of exercise is high enough. Number 2, increasing the amount of training is neither necessary nor desirable. A large amount of high-intensity training will reduce the production of strength. Number 3, negative work is one of the most important factors involved in exercise performance for the purpose of increasing strength and muscle mass. Number 4, no special diet is required. A well-balanced diet is sufficient. Number 5, steroids are neither necessary nor desirable. Number 6, the maximum possible increases in strength and muscle mass can be produced only by the use of full-range direct resistance. While using all Nautilus machines, Arthur trained Casey in a variety of negative training, forcing the contraction of the muscles for the longest period of time. What's great about machine training is the ability to train in a negative fashion and doing it safely. Jones has a strong point in his rationale behind negative training versus positive training. He says, quote, "Your muscles have distinct strength levels. Your positive strength level is the weakest. Your holding strength level is considerably stronger, and your negative strength level is the highest. This simply means that you can hold more weight than you can raise, and you can lower more weight than you can hold," end quote. A combination of the positive and negative work pushing the body to its utmost limit, both in cardiovascular work by means of changing machines after each exercise, and in performing the maximum amount of work the body can handle. This all contributed in the massive growth that was seen in Casey. The results may have produced more questions than it answered. It did, however, show incredible and almost unreal results. The amount of strength, muscle, and weight gained was nothing short of spectacular. In exactly 14 sessions with roughly 7 hours total of training, Casey Viator gained 45.28 pounds in muscle with a loss of 17.93 pounds of body fat. This is only for roughly 33.6 minutes per session on average. The result in a total increase of 63.21 pounds of muscular gain. It's nothing short of an incredible feat. So how is this possible? Well, to start, results like this aren't exactly typical. As this is stated clearly in the study, both the rate of muscular growth and reduction of fat were quite incredible, but not alarmingly noticeable as the study went on. Quote, "Neither subject produced sudden spurts of growth that might have indicated dehydration prior to the start of the experiment. On the contrary, the actual gains and the rate of gains displayed by both subjects remained remarkably steady throughout the experiment. But remarkable as they were, the body weight gains do not indicate the actual results, because both subjects reduced their starting level of body fat during the experiment, indicating that they were rapidly adding body weight while reducing body fat at the same time, a result that I previously considered impossible," end quote. Those quotes were from the study itself. Casey gained weight every day. In the first week alone, he gained 27.25 pounds of muscle. That's just absolutely amazing. Looking closer, it was 20.25 pounds of muscle with 7 pounds of fat lost. His daily average from there resulted in a daily gain of 1.05 pounds of muscle for the remaining 3 weeks. So how did Casey's strength compare after the experiment was over? His leg press went from 32 reps at 400 pounds to 45 reps at 840 pounds. The standing press went from 8 reps at 160 pounds to 11 reps at 200 pounds. Supinated grip chinning went from 7 reps at 50 pounds to 11 reps at 75 pounds. Parallel dipping went from 12 reps at 50 pounds to 16 reps at 100 pounds. So clearly the system in which Casey trained was met with success. As Arthur Jones predicted, it didn't come without criticism and controversy. So anytime that an individual packs on 45 pounds of muscle and loses 17 pounds of fat for a total gain of 63 pounds of lean muscle, you're going to get questions. Dr. Darden discussed some of the criticisms and accusations that occurred after the Colorado experiment. The first of which, Casey was using steroids. That's one of the most obvious accusations. However, Arthur Jones was greatly motivated against drug use, and Jones knew that the results would raise eyebrows. So he hired an independent individual named Tom Wood, who shadowed Casey during the entire study. Quote, "I've spoken with Tim several times about his participation in the Colorado experiment, and he confirms Casey did not take anabolic steroids during the 28-day study," end quote. The next question is, well, what was he eating? So bodybuilders naturally eat large amounts of food. So in the reports that Casey ate a balanced diet are not necessarily surprising. He's said to have consumed 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. To the average person, that's an enormous amount of food. For bodybuilders, it's not. Keep in mind the amount of work Casey was subjected to in a short period of time. There were glycogen stores that he needed to replenish. Arthur did not believe in force feeding or in bulking diets. A daily food diary was kept for Casey, and everything he consumed was meticulously recorded. Most days were closer to 4,000 calories, which is minimal considering the brutal workouts he was going through. Another criticism is it just can't be duplicated again. So while duplicating the results are incredibly difficult, as Casey possessed unreal genetics, lots of people have great genetics, but Dr. Darden did explain that in Casey's example, he was, quote, mostly rebuilding muscle he had previously built, end quote. That being said, there were 8 subjects that were put through programs similar to that of the Colorado experiment that did experience similar results. Those individuals all gained over 10 pounds of muscle in a span of 4 to 6 weeks. While the Colorado experiment wasn't a scientific study, the results are definitely worth noting, and it's quite a story. It's an experiment that feels part mythology, part pumping iron, and part awesome. Personally, I'm quite interested in the study and find the results fascinating. If nothing else, it was a genius marketing strategy because people still discuss it all these years later. Arthur Jones was ahead of his time in many respects. He also didn't give a damn about what others thought, which I can give much respect to. He followed what he thought was right, and in many respects it paid off for him, and for many others who followed and trained under him. For that matter, Nautilus and Hammer Strength both continue to make premier fitness equipment that is still changing the way fitness and strength training evolve today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed watching this.